So one of the most difficult parts of my job as a curator is telling someone no. Our museum, and really no museum, can collect everything. Yes, it's important to record and to learn more about all of the stories that everyone experienced during World War II. We want to capture as many stories as possible. But with 16 million Americans who served in World War II, it's impossible to collect something from everyone. And it doesn't make sense. That would create an unmanageable collection that would be unstorable, and just from a storage standpoint alone, that's impossible. So we need to restrict we need to have boundaries to our collection, and it is very difficult to turn pieces away, turn items away, because in a sense, you are turning that story away for many people. But I think our goal is to try to look for places where those pieces and those stories could be honored and could be preserved. So if we are not able to provide a home for something, for a particular piece, say a ration book. Ration books are extremely common items from World War II. All Americans had them, and we do receive offers for ration books regularly. They are important historical documents that tell a very important story about the American experience in World War II. And there are many collections out there and many educators out there who would love to have such an important primary source. We don't need any additional ration books in our collection, but they serve important functions in other collections, certainly.
Our policy is, we don't take the copyright. We get permission to, we have the official paperwork that the lawyers looked over saying we can use these materials for, instruction, research, put on the web, and things like that. We don't charge anybody for usage. So that's definitely a thing. Also, with oral histories, that's a little trickier because I'm trying to get the veterans to, just not self-censor. And what I always say is this is not a DACA situation. So for those, I say, please say whatever you want, and then we'll go back and I won't post anything on the internet until you're fine with it. So, if they're like, I shouldn't have said that, I'll discuss either restricting it for 15 years, that section, or redacting it completely. And we also are, we started in the last 5-6 years or so doing community archives, which is we don't actually accession and take the material. So I'll take, we'll scan anything that people want to lend.
So one of the questions that we're asked frequently in the museum world is, can I loan material to you? I have items from World War II and I would like you to know about them or have them on a temporary basis. And for most institutions, that is not sustainable. We do borrow material, sometimes from individuals, more often from other institutions, And that's typically for a limited period of time and for a very specific use. So we're looking for an item for an exhibition and we don't have it in our own collection, so we turn to either an individual or another institution for that. But the true basis and the foundation of our collection is material that has been donated to the museum for preservation and access purposes. And really for any purpose imaginable. Often we don't know how a specific piece might be used in the future. There might be, a number of ways that a specific collection could be examined and could be used. Display, digitization, research, any number of ways that an item could be used. But most of the items in a museum's collection, in our museum's collection, have been donated to the museum. That means when an individual brings in a collection, we generate a deed of gift, which the donor then signs, and once they sign that deed of gift, it transfers the ownership of the property to the museum. So it is a legal transaction, really, donating material. And that means that we can use this material in any way that we wish. And copyright is an interesting thing that I am not an expert in museum copyright, and that is really our collection management team and our intellectual property team. But a museum donation is a legal transaction.
Asking the archivist if they don't already, offer to do this, but where can I put this? So I personally always feel horribly guilty if we can't take something. So I go out of my way to try to, spend a little time, going around the internet doing searches for what else it might be. Local history, local historic societies, those are special, what branch they were in, there's different types. As I said, history museums and history societies, each branch, local universities, basically trying to say, hey, let's highlight a connection for what the connection that will match with the collection space that we're talking about. Oh, and one other thing, I don't know if this might have probably relevant to a certain question. A lot of people don't come in with the understanding of the difference between an archive and a museum. They're like, hey, put this on display, or we'd like to see your display, and that's so we have to gently, explain that we keep things in the dark until we use them for instruction exhibits, research.
Because a museum donation is a legal transaction, once it is undertaken, it's difficult sometimes to walk back. So I often come into contact with families or individuals who are struggling with surrendering an item to the museum, with giving up ownership of something that is often very personal and very important, significant in someone's life or their family's story. And so it's very important, I tell families, to work through that before donating something to a museum, to make sure that you are emotionally ready. It's a legal transaction, but it comes with a lot of emotional and personal feelings that are often not resolved. Another thing that I often come into contact with are family members who feel conflicted about donation. So if a World War II veteran had 3 or 4 children, and 3 children really want to give this material to an institution for preservation, but 1 is just not ready, they can't do it. That becomes a very difficult situation, and sometimes families are able to resolve it. Often the World War II veteran had made clear in a will or in other means, by other means, what their wishes were for the material. So that's another thing, I think, to make clear your desire in terms of your personal legacy, what you would like to happen with that material, and make sure that people know it.